I would start the same place Tara would start, and that is to say thank you to this community for all they've done to support this foundation. It would be incredibly important to Tara to know that this many people have turned out, raised this amount of money, and I can tell you she would be absolutely astounded and incredibly appreciated. The second group I have to thank is our committee. It's been 2 years of a difficult time. Last year with no event, and even this year not knowing whether we were going to be able to have an event or not. So again, our committee did a sensational job. I need to thank them. And as usual, Tropicana has done a great job. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank my family, because yesterday was the anniversary of Tara's passing, and it's a difficult thing to do right now. My other job is to kind of give a financial report, and everybody should know we audit our statement. We have an audited statement that actually proves every dollar we raise goes to cancer research. The family funds every nickel. Depending how the auction ends up, I believe that we will be over $700,000 this year. And besides the auction, tonight Debbie and I have agreed to match any outward, just general contribution that's made tonight. So if there's contributions made for non-auction items, just cash, we'll match those tonight. At this time, I would like you to indulge us. There's a 3-minute video that was produced when Tara was alive, and I think that will then lead into Michael Katz, head of the MRA, and he will be our first speaker. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for all they've done. Could not be done without everybody in this room. And we believe you're going to hear tonight that the money that you have spent in funding the foundation has paid tremendous dividends for people with an awful disease. Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much for being here. For those of you new to this event, I'm Tara's twin sister, Lauren. We were 28 years old when Tara was diagnosed with melanoma. It sounds funny to say it, but Tara really was good at being a 28-year-old. She was just starting her law career after passing the New Jersey MPA bar. She loved late nights at Maynard's, vodka and Diet Coke, and she never missed a party. So she would love that we're back in person celebrating this year. She was at work when she got the phone call and heard the words, "You have cancer." She called us all and told us the news, then stayed at work to finish her day. When someone asked her about that, she said, "Well, what was I supposed to do? Go home and cry? That doesn't seem productive." From that first phone call to every conversation we had afterwards, Tara had a motto to make the best of it. Instead of letting a cancer diagnosis turn her into the victim of a cruel disease, she unknowingly turned it into her catalyst for improving the world around her. She would not let cancer define her. A friend of ours said, "It hardly felt like Tara was battling cancer sometimes. She was so fiercely waging a war on pessimism, excuses, and boring days." Her 15-month battle was the most selfless thing I've ever witnessed on so many levels. After she was diagnosed, Tara could have traveled, crossed things off her bucket list, or done anything she wanted. Instead, in 2014, in the middle of fighting for her own life, Tara launched a war on melanoma to fight for the lives of everyone who would come after her. Even when dealing with the cruel side effects of the disease, Tara spent weeks worrying about making sure our inaugural Make the Best of It bash was perfect. She wasn't feeling well, but she was determined to still speak and make sure everyone at that event knew how much she appreciated their support and attendance. And Tara, who our entire lives had the perfect outfit, matching hairpiece, and accessory to every outfit, didn't focus on the fact that she had lost her hair or she might not look like she did pre-cancer. Instead, she just said, well, the silver lining is not having hair makes getting ready a little bit quicker. Tara knew when she started the foundation that the money she raised likely would not make a difference in her fight. She knew the odds, but she couldn't change her chances. She was bound and determined to change them for the next person. One of the silver linings in all of this for our family has been hearing from the patients who have benefited from the research that her foundation has funded. A few years ago, we received this message from one of those patients. I wanted to reach out and personally thank all of you, as well as Tara, of course, because I know the immunotherapy treatments that I'm so lucky to have as an option is due to all of the work and research funding that you have put into finding a cure. It's literally saving my life. We're so excited that Danielle is here and doing so well. She's actually here somewhere tonight. And that's exactly what Tara was fighting for and why she started this foundation. We can't talk about Tara's fight without talking about Dr. Schuchter, who quickly became part of our family. We aren't sure she knew just what to do with Tara as a patient, though. This spunky 28-year-old who researched everything and knew all of the options and was so smart about the disease, but at the same time was asking right after brain surgery when she would be cleared to wear heels and if drinking vodka would interfere with her treatments. We all know that she has an incredible medical resume, but tonight I wanted to share with you what truly makes Dr. Schuchter the best doctor in the world and part of our family. When we called her from the ER that last time, she knew there was nothing left for us to do, but also knew us well enough to understand that we were struggling to accept it. So she sent my mom this text. I don't know if you remember it. You have done everything possible to beat melanoma. As hard as this is to say, there's no more treatments. Bring your beautiful, courageous daughter home. She loves home. She loves her room, and she loves all of you. You and she did fight till the end. Now she needs peace. You need to sit by her bed and read her posts to her page. Tell her she inspired our team to raise $100,000 to find a cure. Her inspiration and her words and actions on how to fight and how to live will carry on. We won't ever forget her. She has touched more people in this past year than most people do in a lifetime. I know not enough time, but as she lived courageously, she will die courageously, with grace, dignity, and humor. Dying well is really, really hard. Tara, the perfectionist, would also want this to be done just right. I love her and you. Bring her home. Now, I'm so proud to introduce the best doctor in the world, Lynn Schuchter.
It really is my honor to be here tonight. As you heard, I'm Lynn Schuchter, and I'm the proud director of the Tara Miller Melanoma Center at the Abramson Cancer Center at the University of Pennsylvania. And I have a silver lining. You would think this would get a little bit easier. This is the 8th year, but it's emotional to be here, and it's especially emotional this year. Last night, as George mentioned, was the anniversary of Tara's death. She died 7 years ago last night. And many gathered last night, and I was really thrilled to come down and join you. Some of us went to Tomatoes. That was my first time at Tomatoes, and had a really lovely dinner. But what was really special was part of last night is we celebrated Tara, and we remembered Tara. And as we were about to wrap up, we were saying, well, what is really important for us to share tonight? Because so many of you are new, you didn't know Tara, and so we really wanted to make sure that we captured her story, and also that you would all understand the impact of this incredibly generous community. So it was really wonderful to hear more stories about her, and ways that we could honor her legacy, and show the incredible impact of her original vision, as you guys just heard. I want to briefly tell you her story, and I was also remembering that, it was just 15 months, her whole battle with melanoma, and the story is that She noticed a mole on her forehead. It was removed, not thought to be anything too significant. And then sometime later, she developed an enlarged node in her neck. And that's when she was diagnosed with melanoma. And she did receive the latest treatments, and we gave her treatment to prevent a recurrence of that melanoma. And so over this incredibly short period of time, she had initial treatment, she had multiple surgeries, she had brain surgery, she had proton therapy. She made it fun, if you can imagine that, as she was going through this unbelievable journey. And I have a clear remembrance of my first meeting with her. And this, also thinking about our conversation last night. So she did come in with all of her research done. She had a book. She knew what the options were. And I want to say that she had done her homework. Now, as I heard last night, I'm not sure homework was really a strength of Tara's in high school and in college. But as she was coming to face the biggest challenge of her life, believe me, she did her homework and she did her research and she was so prepared. The other amazing part of this, as Lauren just said, is that while she was facing this, she made the decision to start this foundation. And I remember being in the infusion room in Penn Tower, actually in our new area, and she was getting her treatment, and I was they were explaining to me what she was planning for the foundation and the impact of this work, and she wasn't recognizing how extraordinary this was, that with the time she had left, and she knew what she was facing. We later all understood how much she really understood, and she was making sure that no one would fight this battle like she had to fight. And so when she was sick, she chose to start this foundation. And I just think that is extraordinary. And I remember reaching over and kissing her forehead to say, "You are so amazing. You are so remarkable. This doesn't happen every day, that a 28-year-old takes this kind of initiative to start a foundation and a legacy." I don't think she would have any idea what the Tara Miller Foundation that honors Tara has accomplished in this short period of time. This foundation is all of you in this room, all of you who have donated over the years. More than $4.6 million has been raised to fund melanoma research. And I just want to tell you some of the amazing work that your generosity has supported. One is, we know that Tara suffered from melanoma in the brain at the end, and there is a new team at Penn bringing together neuroscientists, neuroradiologists, neuro-oncologists to really understand why melanoma affects the brain so particularly. And so you have very specific grants that are understanding the biology of brain metastasis. Tara's own blood samples were used in some of our clinical trials to define how to best use immunotherapy, a treatment that has revolutionized our ability to give care. Your power of your philanthropy has made us understand why melanoma cells become resistant to treatment. Sometimes these treatments work and sometimes they don't, and your foundation and your generosity is making us understand at the cellular level. And I want to tell you a story about that. So this foundation funds young investigators. And what's really key is to bring new minds to this disease. And so with your donations, you funded an investigator, Dr. Arjun Raj. He is in the School of Engineering at Penn. And he is this very sophisticated, I actually don't understand all that he's doing, but at the level of the cell, he is understanding why melanoma cells tick, why they grow, why therapies don't work. And so it was really pivotal that you brought that investigator to the field. But now last week, we had an applicant from Dana-Farber who wants to become a fellow at our program. She's a resident at the Brigham. And the reason she's interested in Penn is because of that investigator's work in melanoma. She saw his lab, she saw the application of engineering at mRNA level, you've heard about this with COVID vaccines, but how this could affect understanding cancer biology. So this is how it works. Tara's influence now could impact bringing an incredibly talented researcher to our program, and that's all because of you in this room, so thank you so much. And super importantly is that we also just received a large grant from the National Cancer Institute called a SPORE grant. Ravi Amravati is here. He's our co-leader of that grant, and our melanoma team is here. This is a $12 million grant to fund research. Now, but I want to be super clear. We would not have that grant without you. This is the power of your generosity and philanthropy. You funded critical research for us and our infrastructure to be able to collect the specimens, to do this testing. You invested in young investigators. I'm telling you, we would not have this grant without all of you. It's incredible. Thank you so much. Now, one of the stories I heard last night, and I can't remember if I heard it before, but when Tara was in high school, she wanted to become the president of her class. And the principal said, no, I don't think you should be the principal of whatever. I think it was her high school year, senior year. And she said, I'm going to be a writing candidate. And so she was a writing candidate, and she won. She was the president of her class. And so I just think that that story is so telling, because you saw the determination. She saw what wasn't happening that needed to be done, that needed her voice and her inspiration for that class. And she was a leader back then, and she was inspiring back then. And so I want to say she is our writing candidate, and we love her, and we are here to celebrate her, to remember her, and to thank her. She is in our hearts and our minds and our souls every day as we go to work, as we do this work to find better outcomes for patients. Our progress has been great, and there are many people in this room who have benefited from the progress, but it's not enough. We still see patients die every day from melanoma, so they don't work for every patient. And your gifts tonight are going to try to make it so that these therapies work for all patients and that we find the cure. Changing the odds for patients is Tara's legacy. That is our charge. And with the support of each and every one of you, we are truly changing the odds for patients with melanoma. We promise to always honor Tara, her passion, and her commitment. We thank you, the Miller family. We love her, and we remember her. And let's raise a glass to Tara. I don't have my glass, but... So thank you so much for being here tonight. It's really an honor for me to share this stage with all of you tonight.
Good evening. I'm Michael Kaplan. I work as President and CEO of the Melanoma Research Alliance. And while George started by thanking all of you for being here and the host committee, I'd like to start by thanking the Millers, George, Debbie, Christy, Lauren, Josh. I can't imagine the pain in terms of what it is to lose a sister or a daughter. And equally, I can't imagine anything more inspiring than seeing that turned into what has offered hope and promise for so many other melanoma patients. And just thank you to your family for turning a very hard situation into that. At Melanoma Research Alliance, we've been thrilled to be able to partner with the Tara Miller Melanoma Foundation. They have since, over the last 7 years, supported 7 Young Investigator Awards that are making a real impact. And I want to be clear how competitive these awards are. We have a peer review panel that are the top melanoma docs that come around from around the world to come together to review the applications we get. We are lucky if we can fund 1 out of every 7 applications, but they don't just take a grant. They then look at the grants and say what makes the most sense to them, whether it's about the institution, the focus of the research, whether it's radiation and checkpoints, or whether it's metastases, and they're a true partner. They also show up at the scientific retreat. They meet with the investigators. They are truly a part of the community that we have at Melanoma Research Alliance, and the melanoma community that's so much bigger than the Melanoma Research Alliance. And again, I say thank you for that. I'll very quickly just cover some of the research they funded. They have, as I mentioned, 7 awards. It's covered research at Tel Aviv University, MD Anderson, UCSF, Mass General, Columbia, and more. And the awards are really working on a broad array of areas, everything from Shane Hunter in Oregon, who recently got a very high publication on understanding how mutations are happening that add up in terms of melanocytes and when it turns to melanoma, to looking at checkpoints with radiation, to looking at new targets for checkpoints, real dynamic research that's making a huge difference. And while I'm disappointed that that progress wasn't here when Tara needed it, it is truly serving thousands of patients every year. I shared with someone earlier the number of new treatments approved since Tara's passing, and the expansion of survival from late-stage melanoma is amazing. I will be around. I can talk about all the grants we do forever, but what I really wanted to simply do is to say thank you to the Miller family. You are making a huge impact, not just in honoring Tara's memory, but in helping melanoma patients around the world, and we appreciate it. Thank you.